Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is David Novak. This is the I'm So Annoyed BookTube tag invented by Kelly at Books I'm Not Reading. Now this tag seems to be spreading like wildfire. I was graciously tagged by Aaron Facer at Aaron Facer, and I have handwritten out the questions in my pathetic scrawl, and so will do my best. I am prone to annoyance or to getting annoyed with things, but I have tried to learn how to let that go and to not hold on to these petty annoyances. A corollary to that would be I do try not to rant. I know on BookTube rants, if there's the word rant in the title, people love that kind of video, but I tend to think ranting is also not ultimately a habit that would do me well in this life. So I try to stay away from annoyances and rants. So the first question was, do publishers ever do things that you find annoying? There are different things that I find annoying. I've talked about this book. This is my third copy of this book. Different editions each time. I had the Viking edition, hardbound. I had the Penguin edition, paperbound. And this is the Chatto and Windus edition. And all three of them used bad paper. I really dislike it when publishers use bad paper. All of my other Finley books have better paper, and this one is holding up for the time being, but I would like to find, there are other paperback editions that exist. I would like to find one that has a better quality of paper. So that's one thing that bothers me. I'll show you another thing that really bothers me. This really bothers me. What am I saying about this? Well, you've got SPQR by Mary Beard. Look at how big that is. You've got the Lumumba plot. Look at how big that is. And you've got White Malice. Look at how big that is. All of these books are about 500 pages, and there's no reason at all for these books to be this big. They're just mammoth size, but the contents are not mammoth. And you can note that immediately when the paperback finally comes out and you see, oh, it looks just like a normal book. But for some reason, in the marketing of these nonfiction books, there is a desire, I guess, to make people feel like they're really accomplishing some big marvel with these books. So they puff them up. Really, there's no reason it should be this size. And this book also bears the sin of having lousy paper. Public Affairs, who is I don't know, but yeah, I really dislike books that try to look like they're something that they're not. I mean, the content of all three of those books I enjoyed, and I wish I had waited for the paperbacks to come out in all three cases, but in all three cases, I wanted that information now. So that bugs me. Have you ever been annoyed by a spoiler? Even something as simple as someone telling you there's a great twist. Someone telling me that there's a great twist might not bother me so much, but I do not like spoilers. Hannah at Hannah's Books is keen to point out that a good book or a great book will not be spoiled by knowing a spoiler. And that is absolutely true, but nevertheless, I prefer not to know. I recently read America by Franz Kafka, and I purposely held off on two videos made by Matthew at Mayberry Book Club because I did not want to know the plot before I read the book myself. And as soon as I finished the book, I watched his videos, and I was happy to see the videos, but I was also happy that I had postponed them till I was finished. And then the next thing I did was make a video myself with plot spoilers. So I find, particularly with Penguin books, Penguin classics, that I am best not looking at the introduction. So I'll wait for the introduction. I'll wait till I've finished the book to look at the introduction. 3. Have you ever been annoyed by what you find in a little free library, a book sale, or a used bookstore? Tell us what you found and why it was so annoying. Well, in a little free library, yeah, people in my neighborhood, they throw all kinds of junk into them. I did a little video of me walking in the neighborhood one day, and I stopped at a couple of the book boxes, and Brian at Bookish commented and said that looking at that book box makes me so sad. Well, I think it was a combination. The little free libraries have been around for at least 10 years in my neighborhood, and 10 years ago it was wonderful. I've just on a short dog walk, I could probably easily hit 20 of them. There are 10 practically daily that I cannot avoid, but unfortunately, these little free libraries require an attendant, somebody to caretake them and just make sure that they don't get destroyed, which unfortunately they all get destroyed. The glass all gets broken. The tail wraps around and hits you sometimes, and it kind of is annoying. But that's not even addressing what you find inside, except for a whole lot of mess. Sometimes you find books that have been completely weather damaged. That annoys me. You find all kinds of things that are not book related, such as diapers, all kinds of food items. I understand people want to give things like that away to people who need them, and I wish there were an alternative place for such items. But while it may annoy me briefly, I let that go. I was annoyed one time because I saw the first volume of Alexander Solzhenitsyn's Gulag Archipelago in the hardback edition, which they said you should get, and there were not the other volumes in there, so that annoyed me, and I just left it behind. I have since read it in paperbacks, which suited me fine. So that's the free libraries. A book sale, I can't really say a book sale. I don't like a book sale if there's no really interesting books, or if they're all just junk, just really old stuff. I really don't like books that are old and mildewy and pages falling out and discolored and all of that. Or a used bookstore, ditto, the same thing. And what I really dislike is when a bookstore has so many piles up everywhere that you can't even see what's on the shelf, or when they just have no organization at all, which is also quite common. I understand when you're at the sales rack or something like that, you just have to poke through all of these spines as you see them. But a store should, generally speaking, do better than that. However, I don't generally go to that kind of bookshop anymore. So it's another item that might annoy me, but now if I walk in and I see that, then I walk out. 4. When it comes to short story collections, are you annoyed if there's a novella in the middle of the collection? I wanted to say yes. I know I've had that feeling, but probably in general, no. I think as Kelly was saying, I would tend to glance over what I'm looking at, and I would see, oh, there's one in there that's a lot longer. So I would be ready for it. If it just surprised me, that it might bother me. As a rule of thumb, when I'm reading any kind of a book, I like it when the chapters are all pretty much of the same size. The Lumumba plot, which I just read, had a chapter that was just 2 pages in length. And then there were chapters that were the normal length. And that kind of irritates me. I think the author should have done a better job of organizing things. But short stories, if you've got a collection of W. Somerset Maugham, and then all of a sudden in the middle you come across the short story Rain, which I believe is probably novella size, well, who is going to complain about the short story Rain? So we'll leave that question there. Deckled edges, beautiful or annoying? I don't think I've ever been bowled over by the beauty. I do like the Penguin Deluxe editions, which have both the flaps and the deckled edges. I don't really like the deluxe editions that are so prone to have comic strip illustrations on the covers, but I understand that's a trend which is prevalent to make books more palatable to the reading public, so I understand that. Now, you are in for a treat, though. This book of poetry by Wallace Stevens, Crocs and Brentanos, used to be a big bookstore in Chicago. This was the first time that I ever encountered deckled edges. I had never seen such a thing before. And it took me a little bit of getting used to it. It's quite a lovely book. Six, other people's annotations in a used book or library book. Annoying, or are you okay with it? It depends. Generally, I don't care to have jottings in the book. Sometimes you get a book that has multi-colors pen. So you have black ink, you have red ink, you have green ink, you have, and then you have underlinings or highlightings of various colors. When there's everything, it's the extreme, and that really annoys me, especially if it has not been noted by the seller, which of course it wouldn't have been, because if it was noted, I would not have bought it, although I am capable of missing that kind of thing too. And then I'm really annoyed at myself for having bought the book, even though it said it was marked up. So, after that, it depends on what kind of marking. A little bit of pencil scratching here and there. There have been occasions when I've found that the notes people wrote were quite interesting, and so in those situations, I liked it. Generally speaking, no, not at all. But also an awful lot of books seem to be dreadfully marked up and highlighted for the first chapter, or for the introduction, and not for any of the rest of the book. And so in those situations, I will give it a pass. I will grin and bear it for that first chapter. I don't understand how somebody approaches a book with such enthusiasm for marking up the text and then just let it fall thereafter. So, but it happens often. So, number 7, if there's a series or a collection of certain kinds of books, like an imprint, and changes are made, are you annoyed or okay with it? If yes, give an example. Yeah, I would be annoyed. I can't find any examples of it. I don't think I have a lot of series at this time. More likely for me nowadays is when I'm buying books. I just showed my Mahogany series by B. Traven, and it's 6 books, and 5 of them I got in the paperback edition, and 1 somehow I managed to get in a hardbound, and that annoys me. It annoyed me. But that was probably my fault. I probably was just going for the cheapest copy at the time. And that has happened a couple of times. I have this lovely anthology of Chinese literature by Cyril Birch. Was a great Chinese scholar and translator. I don't know if he's still living, but he was old at the time that I was reading his stuff. And then I have the paperback. And both of these just kind of fell into my hands inexpensively. I'm not likely to be reading them. And so in that case, as a sort of a book that you just have, then it bugs me that one is paperback and one is hardback. And even worse than that, of course, is the Library of America editions. My Civil War set, you've got two of them are slip-cased and two of them are dust-jacketed. And so you look at them on the shelf and it's A, B, A, B. It bugs me. And then, of course, the next option would be no dust jacket at all. It bugs me. That's got nothing to do with the publisher. That's not their fault. That's just my fault and my cheapness of generally going for the cheap copy if I can find one. But when I was young, I was a reader of The Shadow by Maxwell Grant, and it came out in a nice series of paperbacks by Pyramid, I think was the name of the house publishing them. And Michael K. Vaughan has a video about his whole Shadow collection. He found the whole series on eBay for something like $100 or something like that and bought them all. And at some point, the publisher changed, but the series continued and the formatting changed a little bit. Not the interior of the books, but the cover. And so they generally had Steranko covers. I think there was one, the third or something, that just used a pulp cover. That didn't bother me. But the initial volumes had a real classy look with the word The Shadow. And when the formatting of the cover changed, it looked real cheesy and sort of low class, if you will. That's not the word I wanted, low class, but I can't think of the right word. Just cheap. So, okay. If I can think of it, I'll try to link Michael K. Vaughan's video. It bothered me even when I was a young man reading those things. Number 8. Do the decisions of characters in a novel ever annoy you? Share the book and what decisions you found annoying. I'm sure it has happened. I have no memory for that kind of thing, so I will pass that. 9. Are you ever annoyed by how someone organizes their books? What do you find annoying? Generally speaking, no. If they're organized by color, if they're organized by size, if they're organized by author, if they're organized by subject, no big deal. When I was young, and I may have recounted this story, I had a professor for a class who would often keep me waiting a long time for his appointments. It was a class that was trying to be like a graduate class, but it was still undergrad. And so he tried to make you jump through all these hoops and treat you really poorly. And so one of the things he would do was make you wait for a long period of time in his office. And he shared an office space with another professor. And so I would spend a lot of time sitting in this unattended office space. I never saw the other professor, but I did see her bookcase. And all of the books were so carefully arranged in alphabetical order. And then one day I was so annoyed, I went and I took all of the books and I put them in completely different order so that she would have to hunt for her book the next time she wanted it. That was a very terrible thing to have done. I did bad sorts of things when I was a young man. I repent of that, and unfortunately I have no way of making amends for that callous act except to pay it forward, such as I can. Number 10, share something bookish that you find annoying. Well, how about this? People read books and then they go on YouTube and make videos talking about them and call themselves booktubers, as though booktubers were a thing. What could be more annoying than that? Now, the video asks for me to tag people, and I am a little bit hesitant to do that because whenever I have tagged people in the past, well, one time I tagged a booktuber and he did the tag and then quit being a booktuber. And I think all of the other times that I can remember, nobody took me up on the tagging. And so I will just do a general, if you feel like doing this tag, consider yourself tagged. I will put the questions in the description box. As I say, this seems to be spreading like wildfire, so I expect everybody will be doing it sooner or later. Thank you very much for stopping by my channel. Thank you, Aaron, for tagging me.